What is going on, everybody? We are back looking at some Dynasty rookie picks, the 105 today. Interesting pick. You guys know who I'm joined by. Brian, Dad, Jeff. How's it going?
Hello.
How you doing? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Yes, it's Friday, April 14th, if you're watching this. So we're just under 2 weeks from the first day of the draft starting, which is exciting. And we're looking at the Dynasty Rookie 105 pick. And for me, I don't know about for you guys, for me, this is kind of like the end of a tier, in my opinion. I think there's a teardrop after this one, which actually I think it makes it kind of a straightforward pick for the most part. It kind of makes it a straightforward pick for the most part, yeah? I don't know if you guys agree with that or disagree.
Yeah, I do. I tend to agree, but I think there's a case to be made for the next couple of guys that we're talking about, like depending on like how you feel about that. You know, like I kind of feel like the 4, 5, and 6 kind of all go a little hand in hand. Like I know who I would take, but
it's interesting. You had the 6, so the tier break for you is after the 6th pick, I guess.
Yeah, well, yeah, I would say so.
Okay, for me, it's the 105. I think most drafts, super flex leagues, should play out as Bijan's gone and the top 3 quarterbacks are gone. So if that's the case, who's the pick for you guys? Or is there more than one pick, I guess? Yeah, you want to start?
Yeah, so, I'm still thinking, I'm kind of getting influenced by listening to a bunch of pre-draft junk, I guess, on television and radio and stuff like that. And some of it's good, some of it's not so good. But I'm just thinking this is where probably start thinking about some of the wide receivers. But the problem is there's not a large amount of wide receivers that are, so-called good. So there's a little bit of a roll in the dice on 3 or 4 of these guys, that are considered the top wide receivers. And also, there is another quarterback that is kind of, he's lost in the weeds a little bit, but as we get closer to the draft, Hendon Hooker's name keeps on coming up. So somebody wants to draft a guy and stash him for a little bit, he's a consideration, definitely.
Who is your wide receiver one then? You're talking about the wide receivers?
Yeah, I want to say, to me, the most polished wide receiver seems to be Jordan Addison, I think. I know Quentin Johnson is a little bigger, maybe a little faster, but I think I would tend to think, based upon the number of years that he played in college, and he played with Pittsburgh, University of Pittsburgh, with Kenny Pickett, then USC, with Caleb Williams, and he was very productive. So him, Zay Flowers, I don't know. It's tough.
Okay, so I guess we're all on different pages. And for me, this was like possibly besides the 101, like the easiest pick in the draft. But Brian, who comes to mind when you're thinking 105?
Yeah, I think you can kind of go in 3 different directions. Is kind of what I was alluding to. Like if one of those quarterbacks is still there, if like someone was scared off of Richardson, if they need more of a player they feel like they can slot in right away.
Let's say the top 3 quarterbacks are gone. Let's just assume it's Richardson, Stroud, and Bryce Young are gone.
Yeah. So like what I was saying was, like if one of those guys is still there, him, or you can kind of pivot, to your receivers, like Dad was saying, or Jahmyr Gibbs, if you feel like you need a little bit of running back help. But I mean, I think you could easily, go for one of the other quarterbacks, depending on where they land, and how you feel about him. Like possibly a Will Levis. Like I know it seems like he's like falling out of favor quite a bit, but I mean it is super flex, and if you're sitting at the number 5 pick, that means you're possibly barely making the playoffs last year. So, or no, barely not making the playoffs, I guess. Yeah, I was thinking about that backwards. So, I mean, you're kind of rebuilding, I assume. So, maybe taking a quarterback there is not the worst idea. But if I was going receiver, it seems like the consensus favorite is someone I don't think Dad even mentioned was Jackson Smith and Jigba. I don't think that's too bad of a pick, but everyone's grading everyone a little differently. So, yeah, I think that's who I would go with if I was going receiver. So him, Gibbs, or maybe that 4th quarterback even.
Yeah. The reason I was saying I think this is like the easiest pick for me besides the 101, maybe also the 104, is just assuming it plays out with Bijan, the top 3 quarterbacks are going. I'm going JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, which is interesting because I think early on when I was looking at these receivers, I was kind of on Quentin Johnston as my favorite. But I think he still has like the highest ceiling out of any guy, but I think he also has like the lowest floor out of any of these top receivers. The more I watch him, and just, are his skills going to translate to the NFL? Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think, is like pretty safe. I think he'll be like, his best will be like a Keenan Allen fantasy production type of player where he's just consistently, top 12, 14 PPR guy. Will he get into like the top 5? Probably not. And then I think his floor is, not much further down the line. I mean, he's going to catch a lot of passes, and, he's going to be a great PPR guy. So to me, it's like no question JSN over Gibbs. Even if I need a running back, I don't like to draft specifically for need all the time. I want to take kind of that best player, in my opinion. So,
yeah, well, I think that's kind of like the argument, right? It's like depending on how you feel about Gibbs versus Njigba, like you could make the argument like who the better player is. Like I feel like you could kind of play for need a little bit. I mean, obviously, it's going to depend a lot on landing spot and everything. And I know a lot of the mock drafts out there are kind of like projecting, like, okay, what if, with Houston having the 12th pick in addition to the 2nd, so they get their quarterback at 2, and then I've seen a lot of mocks say that they're going to take a receiver to help out that quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like, what if you had a little Buckeye reunion there and you get JSN with Stroud?
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah,
it's really nice. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that would like swing a lot of, like, I think if that did happen, JSN is like he's not going any later than 5th, definitely, maybe even 4th over Richardson, even in Superflex.
See, I don't think it should make a difference though, and I think people make that mistake way too often. Like the team, yeah, it's nice to see the teams. Draft capital is way more important than the team to me, and I don't think JSN, him going 12th or 16th, he's going to go in that top 15, 20 picks, in my opinion. And I don't really care what team he goes to. I think a lot of people potentially made this mistake with Garrett Wilson last year. Oh, he went to the Jets. I don't want him because he's on the Jets. And he was the best rookie receiver last year and probably going to be the best potentially from that draft class. So it's like, to me, it's not so much where he goes, or what team he goes to. It's more about the draft capital. So I just think JSN, taking him over Gibbs, I think is a mistake. You can make the argument for maybe a Levis or Hendon Hooker and I think he might, if Hendon Hooker does get taken in the first round, which a team maybe will jump into the late 20s and draft him because you get that extra year of control over them if you're a first rounder. I think you can make a case for one of those guys. I would go Hooker over Levis. So I guess there is an argument there, but to me, there is none for Gibbs versus JSN, in my opinion. So, Dad, anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I don't see Gibbs any more than a fancy third down back kind of. So I think I would have a a little bit of a hard time drafting Gibbs that high. I think that's not going to be. He's not going to be. I kind of hate saying this word, the bell cow type running back or anything like that, and I just he'll be very productive in a passing game as he was at Alabama. So he just doesn't seem to have that body that fits kind of an every down running back. But that's just my 2 cents on that guy.
Yeah, I kind of to contradict what I did say a little bit. There are players where I do think where they go does actually matter a little bit. I think Gibbs is kind of one of those. Like if he went to Miami, for example, I'd really, really love that. And that would push him up maybe a pick or two for me, or be like a tiebreaker. You can use it as like a tiebreaker over a couple guys.
What about San Francisco?
Probably not San Francisco as much. Maybe. I mean, you're not going to get much the first year. I say Miami because there's an opportunity, but also the coaching staff, I think, will use him the right way and put him in the best situations. So I think he can be
Denver,
really.
Maybe. I think Denver's looking.
Denver's a good one.
I think Denver's looking. I think they seem to be. I've heard they're going to lean on Samaje Perine. As
Samaje Perine.
They definitely Perine.
Mm-hmm.
Perine, but anyway, they're going to be looking for some running back help. I think that's some of the situations. Probably Seattle. Those are. I know we're getting off base a little bit, but
yeah, I mean we don't have to go too much into landing spots because the draft is in 2 weeks anyways, and we're gonna know. But I think Gibbs can be more than a third down back for sure. Like I think he can. I don't think that's his ceiling, in my opinion, but.
Yeah, I think that's kind of similar to what you were saying, Dad. I think that's what a lot of people are saying about Gibbs is like he's not going to be that workhorse guy necessarily, but I think people get a little caught up in that too because basically, there's like 4 of those guys. Like you don't have to be one of those guys to be productive or even in the top 12 by any stretch.
Yeah, we know the running back room has definitely changed in the last 5+ years in the NFL, so we don't see the traditional running back who's getting the ball 20 times a game. So we have to, for fantasy, we just have to make do with guys that we think that are going to score points for us.
Yeah. To kind of move into, just to not make this too long and kind of get into some trades for the 105, I'm going to move along. So basically, we're saying Jason, Gibbs, or if you want the 4th quarterback, one of those 3 guys. So 105 in a Superflex league. I think all these are 12 teams. Trading straight up the 105 for Tyreek Hill or for Cooper Kupp. Either one of those you guys like? You like one more than the other? What's your opinion there, Brian?
I would take either one, like hands down. I don't know if I really necessarily like one more than the other. If I had to pick one, I'd probably go Tyreek, but I guess it depends. If it was PPR, then I'd probably lean more towards Kupp, but I don't think you can go wrong with either one of those.
Yeah. Dad, you like those picks, 105 straight up for either one of those guys?
Yeah,
let's say you're like, I don't know, you made the playoffs or you just missed the play, like you're a good team. You have a solid team.
I think I would do all right on those trades. You said Kupp, right?
Yeah, either straight up for Tyreek Hill or Cooper Kupp, one of those guys.
Yeah, I don't know. Those guys are big point. I don't know. I'm going to change my mind. I think I would just hold on to those players. I wouldn't. If I had the 105 pick and I would trade for one of those guys, yeah. If I was on the receiving end.
That's what I'm. Yeah, so you want the player side, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. What about 105 for Najee Harris and the 211?
I mean, I don't know if I like that one as much. I think I'd rather just draft. I feel like the 211 is kind of a little bit of a throw in there. I mean, once you get to that, that's what, the 23rd pick. I mean, it is an extra dart for the board, but I think I'd rather just keep the pick. I feel like you could get maybe a little more from Najee, but I mean, there's your bell cow, Dad. Like, we know what he's gonna do most likely. So he's gonna touch the ball 300 times. So.
And that's why I have him on my my Dynasty team. Very kind of disappointing last year, but anyway.
Yeah. So do you like that trade, Dad? The 105 for Najee. You're getting Najee in the 211.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I would take Najee in 211.
I'd probably lean no, just because I do think the 105's in that tier. Like, I think JSN has that, like, Keenan Allen potential of just being that type of receiver for 8 years, and I think that's a little more valuable, in my opinion. So, let's get one more Superflex in. The 105 and Kyler Murray for Justin Herbert. Dad, you doing that? Superflex.
Yeah, if I'm the 105 for Justin Herbert, absolutely.
105 and Kyler Murray for Justin Herbert.
Absolutely, yes. I think, like I've mentioned before, I think Kyler Murray's running days are done, and that's how he got us a lot of fantasy points. So,
yeah. Brian, what do you think of that 105 and Kyler for Justin Herbert?
Yeah, I would probably do it. I really do like Justin Herbert. Like Dad said, like Kyler, he could be over when it comes to running and stuff, but I mean, we've seen him be a good passer too. I just don't know what. I feel like you're not going to get him for at least half the year this year, so I don't know. I think I'd rather just have Justin Herbert. Not even. I mean, isn't Herbert like he's the class after Kyler? Is that right? So he's like a year younger. I know that it doesn't always like work that way, but yeah. And I know quarterbacks they can tend to last a lot longer, so age isn't as much of a thing when they're that young. But I don't know. I think I just like I think Herbert's going to be the man for quite a while. So yeah, I would take the Herbert side.
Yeah, I'm all.
I feel like.
Yeah,
sorry, I was just gonna say like if you compare Herbert to Kyler straight up, it's like that's fine. Like I think a lot of people would lean Herbert, and then that 105 pick, it's like, yeah, just think about who you're getting there. It's like if you're taking like another quarterback, or like a JSN or something like that. So you just think about it in those terms, like JSN or Jahmyr Gibbs or whatever, plus Kyler to upgrade to Herbert. I think that's totally worth it.
Yeah, if you can get a stud quarterback, do it. Kind of, build your team around that for sure. We'll try and get one or two, just one quarterback leagues. Just didn't see a whole lot, but the 105 for a player like Travis Kelce or a player like DK Metcalf. Would you guys be doing that?
Go ahead, Dad.
Yeah, for a Dynasty league, Kelce, wow, that's it'd be hard to turn down, but he's getting old, so yeah, I think I can get a couple years out of Kelce, so I think I'd do that.
What about for Metcalf?
Yeah, again, he's still a young guy, his contract situation, which I know it doesn't matter for fantasy, but he's happy. He wants to produce, and, the quarterback is semi in place for a couple of years. So, yeah, I think I'd do that too.
Right?
Yeah, I think I don't know. It'd be a little tough. Like the Kelce one, it's definitely according to team build, right? Like, I mean, obviously, like he's invaluable on your team, but again, the age thing. So it's kind of like where, like, I think I'd rather take Metcalf over Kelce, honestly, just because Metcalf's going to be solid number 2 receiver with wide receiver 1 upside. Like we've seen him do it, like, and it doesn't really matter that he's playing with Geno Smith. We saw him be good last year. So I think Metcalf's the safer pick, but I think Kelsey is stronger, for like he'll help your team more this next year over Metcalf, just because of the position that he plays. So I think I don't mind either one of those, honestly.
Yeah, and yeah, definitely. It's like if you're accepting this and you're taking on Kelsey, if you're doing it and you're a rebuilding team, you're obviously making a mistake, right? Or if you're a couple years away type of team. But obviously, I think if you do accept it, it means you have a solid team and you think Kelsey can, push you over the top, kind of. I like both.
Yeah, and like you mentioned,
I like both.
One quarterback league too, so it's like we haven't even really talked about like who's getting drafted there because most of our talk is super flex. So you got to imagine a couple of those quarterbacks don't get taken with those first 4 picks. Like maybe one goes, and so it kind of pushes everyone else down too. Or up, rather, I
guess in a one quarterback league, I would assume Bijan's gone, JSN's gone, probably Gibbs is gone. A quarterback, maybe not Gibbs and 2 quarterbacks or something like that. So yeah, maybe you're looking at Gibbs or a wide receiver 2 or 3, or a quarterback 2 there. So I like those picks. So, but yeah, I think we're gonna wrap it up for the 105, and we'll be back looking at the 106. See you guys soon.